Township Public Services Commission. Call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our guests in the audience and to Joe O'Keefe from our wastewater plant, and we're blessed tonight to have with us our Finance Director, Ann Darzniak. Okay. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to call roll. Riley.
Present.
Bill Kennedy had called. He's going to miss tonight's meeting. Schmidtke.
Present.
Ron Wilder also called. He's not in town. Jim Nelson is also out of town. Mr. Budney.
Present.
And Chair Bill Costa. Ted Van Oz, ex officio member. So we do have a quorum. There's only 4 of us here. And we're not in our normal seating order, but we do have a quorum that we can take official business. Next, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Supported that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved as distributed. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. We also have the minutes of our December 8th meeting. You've all had a chance to look at. There are no comments. Entertain a motion for approval.
I have one quick comment, Mr.
Yep.
Chair. Just one of the items was number 14 on page 2 regarding the signage for Parkway. I just wondered if there any update on that. Okay.
I know this item has been discussed. I mean, this is a topic that you often bring up. How can we get to resolve this? Can we just go out and change the sign, our own?
I thought at our last meeting that's what we said we were going to do, is get our own. Okay. I just.
Right. Thanks for bringing that up.
With that.
If there are any further comments, if not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Do we had a motion?
We didn't have a motion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I move to approve the minutes.
And you support Les?
I'll second it.
All right, so this is for the minutes of our November 10th meeting. Our November 10th meeting?
A December 8th
meeting. Right? Oh, I see. We approved the minutes at the last meeting, November 10th. I'm sorry. So of our December 8th meeting, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of vouchers found. So it'd be vouchers 13,432 to 13,439. I ask if there are any questions. We have a motion?
I have a motion to approve the bills, vouchers 13,451 through 13,457.
There's support. There's support?
Oh, I'll support it.
Moved and supported vouchers be approved as distributed. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vouchers are approved. Next we have statement of revenues and expenses. If there are no comments or questions, we'll just receive and file those. Filed. Next we have the Treasurer's Report for January 2016. You all had a chance to look at it? Can I have a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report?
So moved.
Support? Is there support?
I'll support it.
Moved and supported that the Treasurer's Report for January 2016 be approved as distributed. If there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer's Report's approved. Now we're through the preliminary. At this point, the public had an opportunity to speak on any topic you wish, including any agenda item. We have a couple gentlemen in the audience. I'm welcome to come up to the podium. Anybody'd like to speak? And you're both from Stout Avenue, so when we get into that discussion, as chair, I'll also give you an opportunity to speak then, if necessary, if you want to state anything, okay? Thanks for being here, though. Appreciate it. Okay, action items. First action item is East River Water Main, a recommendation to the Township Board to award the contract. The low bidder is Vetteri Contracting, and we had 8 bids on the project. Low bid for the East River Road Water Main, which is about 2 miles of water main, is $2,006,000 and $192.50. So it's $2,006,192.50. Now that's the bid. So the action that we're taking in the first instance is to approve the award of the contract to the low bidder, Vetteri. For everybody's information, I think the bids for $2 million were pretty tight. You ended up having, second bid was literally 50-some thousand higher. Bids ranged from the $2,006,000 to $2,383,000. So, in any event, our engineers are familiar with this contractor, and open the topic up for discussion, if there's any.
Just one actually question, and that's their bid was for directional drilling, and we're all comfortable with them going with the directional drilling. Is that the way it usually is done?
Just to comment, Mr. Chair, the reason they decided to do that was because of all the services going under the road to the docks and the electrical and the water. It's really the only way we can do that without having to reestablish every one of those driveways and every one of those feeds that go under the road. So the cheapest way to go, I think.
Well, that's true, and I think the other issue is the county would not allow us to put the water main, in this case, under the road. The current water main is offset from the road on the resident side, river side. So try to dig up everybody's front yard through there, and through all the driveways and through all the other utilities would be much more costly than what we're looking at. So I think this is the best way to go.
For the depth that they're going to have to go, we don't assume there's going to be any problem going through.
I don't believe so.
Well, I think there will be problems, because I think they're going to run into a lot of lines, and John can attest to this. Particularly people who run water or electricity out to their
across the street,
or bring water in to irrigate their lawns. There's probably no record of where those lines are located.
I'm not sure. Typically, when they run electrical, and Les can probably talk to this better than I can, but I'm not sure that residential services would be as deep as we're going with that water main.
Oh, Ted, I think
I would hope.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what you find when you dig up a water main break. I mean, they have brought stuff up from the house, and they have gone underneath the existing water main.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
The only thing that they're going to have to worry about if they're doing this directional boring is the house leads for the sewer. If they go through those and don't know it, then there's going to be a problem.
They intend on televising the sanitary main and leads. So you actually have a camera that goes up the leads now. So they're going to TV it before and after to be sure they haven't disturbed any of those.
I have a question, Lorenda. Maybe you can answer this. Did we bid this? I know we had all the engineering. We've had that done for 7 or 8 years. Have we ever bid this before? Did we bid it then? Mm-hmm. What did that bid come back at? Do you remember?
1.3.
Just curious. Much?
0.3.
1.3.
Well, I talked to our engineers about this. Number one, there's been a substantial, like 20% increase in pipe. That's one cost, and that's just the pipe alone is $902,000. Been a substantial increase in that. Plus, this bid includes allowances for all the county
Sure.
permit fees. So costs have gone up generally.
John, do you remember whether that was open cut or directional drill?
Directional drill.
That was also directional drill?
Same company.
You said 1.3, that's not my recollection.
Could be that number. So I thought it was about 1.5, so that number sounded about right.
Okay, I thought it was too, Ted. So on this topic, it's a lot of money. But one of the issues that I have, and I talked with our finance director and with Lorinda today, I didn't want to recommend something to the township board until we knew how we were going to pay for it. It's one thing to just recommend, okay, let's go and let somebody else worry about it. I mean, I think we need to do our duty. So I'm going to say this right now. The action on this item is to approve this and recommend it to the township board. When we later talk about budget, through some refunding of existing debt and whatnot, this will all be covered within, it's already in the proposed budget to pay for it. So this project alone would not, we can fund this project with the current revenue situation. There may be some reason, and when we look at the budget, that we may want to have a slight increase. I don't know this in the water rate, in the range of 1% or something to cover this. But we'll get to that. But I'm very comfortable, based on my meetings earlier, and Ann's going to explain it later when we talk about budget, that we can accommodate this project. Project, by the time you add 10% contingency, this is a straight-up bid, unit prices. Add 10% contingency, that's $200,000 added to it. If you add another 12% for testing, for selling the bonds, which is going to be in the range of $60,000, $70,000, just to run attorneys, inspection on the job, staking, you're talking about adding another 12%. So for a budget, when we get to the budget, this project's going to really cost about $2,450,000. Okay, so this action alone is just to recommend award of the contract. And before we're done tonight, we will discuss the funding of this, and I would say that hopefully everybody will be comfortable. I know I am now at this point. If we are, we won't send any action on this, so we want to move this forward. And we also discussed with the engineers and Lorinda today that if this is approved by the township board, once a target date for construction is known by us, the township, when the contractor intends to start, two things were considered. We're going to send a letter to all the property owners on East River advising them that this project is coming, so when they see stakes in their front yard, they'll understand what that's about. And also to explain to them what's being proposed, what's being built, and if there's problems, who to call. And it was even suggested that we might want to, before our, depending on when the contractor is going to start, before our March or April meeting, but have devote a half hour to the project at the beginning of one of our meetings. Know what you think of that?
I think that's a good idea.
Talking about 2 miles of people, frontages. Now, we're not going to do that for Stout, because you all know about this already, but there's only 11 of you, and we know, we've seen most of you. Anyway, so that's what we're talking about, okay? That probably would make the project go a lot easier. So, with that, are there questions, discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to recommend to the Township Board that the East River water main replacement from Ferry Road, Horse Mill, 2 miles, to the Verde Terry Contracting Company, a low bidder in the amount of $2,006,192.50.
I will make that motion.
Port?
We have a motion on the floor. Are there any questions or further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Vote less?
I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay, the chair votes yes. So we recommend that we move forward with this budget. Next item on the agenda was to be approval of the 2016 Wayne County Local Road Initiative Program. Chair is going to make a comment on this too. The action can be to approve the list as submitted. My feeling on it is we have not yet received the reimbursement, $500,000 reimbursement from Wayne County on last year's program. We have been told, the township's been told, that that's expected to be received by March 1st. Are you aware of that? I hate to take an action for us to recommend next year's program until the money for last year's program has been received.
They could always rescind it at the board.
Well,
You don't get the money. The county, I think their fiscal is April 1st. Hold their money till the last minute, and they approve.
well, anyway, so my feeling, John, is that I don't want to, one issue I have is I really want us to approve it until we receive the money.
Well, that's
So
fine.
it doesn't hurt anything if we delay it a month, but as I drove around yesterday, looked at some of the new deterioration in roads, and then I looked at the list and drove most of these roads. I had a couple of comments I'd like to make. First of all, as you look at the list, there's projects are taken off the old map that was done a couple years ago when we first studied this. That's what the numbers correlate to. So you'll see the projects range from project number 14 all the way to 59, but there's really not that many because you have 14, 15, and 16 that are just the 23rd, 24th, 25th, and it correlates to a map we did a couple years ago. At any rate, as I drove around, I noticed a couple things. You know, every year we've made concrete improvements on Manchester. I drove Manchester, and one section of Manchester near Hidden Lane, cul-de-sac.
Blossom?
No, it's not Blossom, it's Hidden Lane. I checked it again. The whole concrete, the whole slab all the way across the road is just blown up. In fact, we need to call in tomorrow and ask for patching to be done there. Hidden Lane in Manchester. So I'd like to add that to that repair. Then I also noticed that the amount of money that's allocated for Presswick, which is by our engineers, which is project number 57, $1,000 doesn't seem like enough to me. So I'd propose $5,000 on Presswick, add Manchester at $5,000, and then since this was done, the section of Park Lane from Grays Drive, a lot of high school traffic travels from Grays Drive to LaSalle Court. There's whole sections now of concrete joints that have blown up this
That's
weather.
all new concrete in there.
No, not that side. Before that. Before you get to that, Les. Before the new concrete. From Grays Drive, that repair we did was from about LaSalle Court to Sarah Lane years ago.
Okay, all right.
So this is before that. None of that concrete's blown up. But if we don't deal with this Park Lane situation, it's just going to be a disaster out there. It's a heavily traveled road, especially for the high school. So here's what my proposal is. If you go up to project 23, which is at the top of the list, Lowry Drive, we're going to mill and overlay that intersection and back, I'm going to guess 300-400 feet. Budget for that was $56,250. My proposal is the biggest issue there at Lowry and Meridian is the turning radiuses. One of them is gone. If you make a right turn, people are out into poles and so forth. That we reduce that to 30,000, and the other 26 that we saved from that project would be split. 5,000. My proposal is 5,000 from Manchester, 5,000 for Presswick, and then add Park Lane in as well for 16,000. And that way, it doesn't raise the total dollar amount at all, but it reallocates some of the money. Now that's sort of a Johnny-come-lately view, and I don't know if any of you have noticed anything that you'd want to change this list for, but that's my thinking on it. Do you have any other suggestions?
No, and I'm in agreement with those changes.
Les, do you have any other?
Nope, I agree with what you've come up with.
Yes, I have no problem with that. We still can't fix all the roads on the island at one time,
No.
so.
So what I'd like to do is propose, and I drove most of these roads yesterday, what I'd like to propose is that we ask the engineers to take those figures and plug them in and bring back to us in our March meeting. By that time, the county will have paid, the county will have
They should by then.
made the payment, and if we approve it on the 8th, I understand the Township Board's annual meeting is the 14th, March 14th?
Well, we have a meeting the 14th, right?
So you'll do business that night?
Yes, we will.
So-
When's the annual meeting for the township?
Well, I'm not sure that they're going to call an annual meeting this.
Really?
It's going to be combined. Everything's going to be done. I'm just not sure that we're necessarily going to use that title annual meeting. But everything, it's going to be the 14th.
Okay.
It'll be
All right, so
combined.
if we took action at our March 8th meeting, it could still be on the agenda for the Township
Yes.
Board. And as far as the concrete work, a big chunk of that is at the high school, Grace Drive. Last year, we told the contractor he couldn't start till school was over. The same would apply. And then on the other side of it, we wanted it to be done before school started. So that worked out well last year. So anyway, so my thought is to,
So we're going to table number 2, the action item.
No action.
no action, and everybody, I don't have to repeat it, what I've proposed, the staff's got it, I think, if everyone is in agreement at this point. Now, that doesn't mean that if you notice something when it comes back, we can always tweak it at the March meeting. Not looking for doing that. I didn't mean to do it today, but these are things that jumped out at me. Okay? All right, so this is tabled with those change suggestions until our March 8th meeting. Is it March 8th? Yes. Our March 8th meeting. All right, moving on. Related to this issue, last year we bid both all the concrete work. Low bidder was a company called G&D Cement. They've done work on the island for many years. They were the low bidder on the concrete work. They've provided us with a letter dated December 17th that they will extend last year's prices. Now, we all know concrete's gone up about 10%, most jobs that they're being bid. So what this motion would be is to accept the letter dated December 17th from G&V Cement Contracting to extend their current contract prices for the 2016 street sectioning program.
I'll make a motion that we accept their letter.
And I will support.
Are there any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, get by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. The next item is also related to this. We have several areas of asphalt proposed, which we have not bid before. So the motion is to authorize Charles Raines Company, our engineers, to prepare bid specs and seek bids for the asphalt repairs that are listed on our neighborhood sectioning program. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, keep by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So the motion is approved, so our engineers are authorized, and you'll advise them tomorrow to seek bids. And on that Lowry, John, they're going to probably work with you. My thought is we ought to come from the radiuses up Meridian, back, whatever, 30,000 or less.
I had a note to talk to you about it later, but I from Raines looked at that, and I thought he'd already pared that back, because we talked to you before you left. We pared it back to just past where the bike path crosses. So the radius up to where the bike path is. I think it's already, that number's already pared back.
I don't think so. It says
I
56,000.
don't remember what it was originally, but I'll check with them
I
tomorrow.
don't think that's a pared back figure. They ought to do that.
He was supposed to.
Okay, well, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're on to Stout. We might as well just pass over on that one. We have several residents in the audience regarding the drainage problem at Stout Road. So we have a motion before us to recommend to the Township Board to award the bid to Campo Brothers, the lowest bidder, in the amount of $121,350 for the Stout Avenue drainage project based upon the recommendation of the Township Engineer.
So moved.
I just want to indicate we have had 6 bids on this project. And Campo Brothers we're familiar with. The bids range from $121,000 to $141,000, so they were pretty tight bids. And unlike the first time we bid this includes replacing all the driveways that are the sections that are torn up to a like driveway. So in other words, if you had concrete, you'd get concrete. If you have asphalt, you get asphalt. If you don't have anything, you're going to get gravel. And so this is a project that affects 11 homes, drainage problem, and their driveways. So we've all been out there. We're all familiar with it. We've had numerous discussions on it. So now I'll entertain a motion.
I move again.
Is there support?
I will support Mr. Budney's motion.
Okay. So the motion is to award the contract to Campo Brothers, the lowest bidder, in the amount of $121,350 to undertake the Stout Avenue Drainage Project based on the recommendation of the engineer. All in favor, keep by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So you have a project. Does anybody want to talk or no? Any questions?
Well, there's some stout people here, and the main thing is like, kind, and quality. So if you had gold in your driveway, you get gold. If you had silver, you get silver. If you had gravel, you get gravel. Everybody should understand that, and neighbors talk to each other. They should all understand that.
And once we get a schedule from the contractor, I think, Lorinda, you've got everybody's address. You'll send a note to them advising them it's going to start. And
Yeah,
Well-
since it stops snowing.
per our plan, it's February. Our hope was to get it going, especially with this weather we've had. There's hardly any frost in the ground. If we can get it started in March, it'll be done before the summer rains. So that's been the goal. And I think last winter, if we'd have done it in November, you wouldn't have any grass. It would have all been mud. And this way, grass by May can take. So hopefully it'll work and be successful.
Well, one good thing about the contractor that got this job lives on Gage. He's right around the corner.
Okay. Good thing, I guess. So anyway, congratulations. We are moving forward. This is going to go to the Township Board. The next meeting, which is
Second, 23rd, yeah. Yeah.
whatever Monday that is, 22nd or 23rd of February. All right, the next items are discussion of our budgets for the coming year, and that's going to be a long discussion. You're welcome to stay. But I do want to, in the packet, Lorinda, I guess I got my packet out of order here. I had page 71, was this Meridian Road deal? Meridian Road.
That's a discussion
I
item.
guess my packet is out of order here.
Yeah, 34 should be.
I got it. Okay. All right. So now we have the budget starting on page 34. I just want to indicate that I sat down with our finance director at length twice, and with Lorinda yesterday. So I'm going to ask Ann if she would walk us through this, and she's got her own method to walk us through, and then we'll come back for a discussion. So Ann.
Yeah. Between Lorinda and I, we put a lot of work into it. Lorinda did all the stuff that I'm not familiar with, and I did stuff that I'm the expert on, or want to call it that. So let's just kind of go through. You'll see a lot of the budget is pretty much the same. I mean, the DPW is so capital intensive. The numbers change basically on what capital improvements are done from year to year. Over the last couple of years, if you look on page 35, our water usage has come down from 2010. The last couple of years, it's been pretty stable.
Talking about the figures in the upper left-hand corner.
Water usage. Yeah,
Okay.
so the usage amount has become stable. I think a lot of that has to do with the economy. People aren't watering as much, and just based on weather, if it's been dry or wet. But in 2015, our actual was about 262 units. I'm talking millions of gallons. And then the budget for 215 was at 265, and that's running pretty much on schedule. And so I used 216 for the 216 budget. I still use the 265, be conservative. And like I said, last couple of years we've been right in that range. So when we go through the budget, you're going to see revenue is pretty stable. As far as households and that, I'm sure the units remain pretty stable too. We do get a couple houses, but we're just going to keep the revenue stable. So if you look in the next 3 pages.
What page?
37, which is the water side of it. Page 38 is the sewer side of it with rates. And then 30.
But what you're referring to is metered sales.
Yes,
on
metered.
Page 37.
Yes.
Everybody there?
And then the metered for the water, for the sewer is the same, and for the refuse is the same. Last year, we did raise water rates about 5%. So those were just incorporated, and they stayed the same, because as of this point, this budget is not being presented with any water rates at this point.
Oh, and
Increase.
just want to make sure everybody's up to snuff here. All the revenues on page 37, including the metered sales, are the same as the current year.
Correct. And everything
For
that
sewer-
says total line is the actual that's being presented.
And for sewer, it's the same thing.
Correct.
Same as well.
And refuse.
Based on the volume that you're predicting. And then refuse, the revenues have gone up slightly.
Right.
That's based on additional households?
Yep. And if you look at the trends, I'm not going to go into that with you, but we provide them. It's like dead center. It's the same every year. So it's going up and down very, very slightly.
Right.
So usage is remaining the
Where do
same.
you want to go now, page 40?
Let's go to page 40. So now we're going to go in the expenditures for the water side of it. And like I said, most of the expenditures through history, and like I said, a lot of the little items remain pretty stable. The things we're going to look at are the big ticket items. So go to page 41.
Well, before you go to that page, Ann,
Yeah.
I just want to comment. As you look at page 40, you'll see that one of the columns shows 2015, 2016, so it's the current year. Where it says total line, that column is the
That's the
proposed
budget.
budget for 2016, 2017. I just Everybody with me on that? All right, so I don't have any questions on this page, Jim?
I have just a quick question on the overtime, why it went up. Why are we budgeting it up?
It seemed like the overtime was up a little bit, but now that we got a new person, the people are doing, and we lowered the amount of temporary,
Because
part-time
we had,
temporary.
so it's a,
Yeah,
it's an
because they were
offset.
using more
It's an
temporary.
offset.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So basically, on page 40, for all the staffing, including certain set things like office supplies, supplies for the field, postage, and so forth, what we've actually seen is a 1% decline in the cost. Okay? Now, page 41.
All right, and page 41, obviously our big ticket item is the water. So Lorenda calculated out with Ohio that the water increase from Detroit was about 7.1%. So that's what we did. We took last year's water, which, like I said, 15-16 is right on target, and we just added that 7% to it. So that brought up to 1.2 million.
That's item in the middle of the page, 927.00. That's the water cost, right? That's
Yep.
the cost of purchasing water from Detroit.
Did we get the increase in writing from Detroit yet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we've got it.
what we used, yep.
But they are going to have a public hearing, Ted.
Yeah, they have another one March 2nd.
Miranda's going
And
to
Jim
go.
said he wants to go.
Well, I'll go, but I think the public hearing is going to be more where they're at and where they're going, and we know what that's going to be about. So, but no, I'd be glad to be there.
Okay.
And the next one is the main repairs. Lorenda boosted it up, and she can tell you what.
Right. I've seen an increase in water main breaks since 2013. In 2013, we only had 26. The following year, we had 32. Last year, 41. Okay, so the costs are going up.
2 bad winters also. Winters were
Yeah,
bad
we did.
winters.
We had 2 bad winters, too. Yeah,
Factor.
yeah. The biggest factor is the age of the water mains.
Both.
Yes, I know, but it's also the age of the water mains. Now, this past year, I know in past we've talked about how we contract out the water main repairs. And so I took the total that we paid the contractor and averaged it out. Just for the contractor alone, they're running about $2,600 a piece for the fix-it. Okay? Just want to let you guys know that.
So last year we had 40 what?
Last year we had 41. The year
41
before.
times $2,600?
Pardon me?
41 times $2,600?
Correct.
per?
Correct. That's an average.
I know.
It's just
One
an
might have
average.
been $5,000, the other was $1,500.
It could be,
That's the
yeah,
average.
but this is just an average.
The gross number should be whatever gross number you worked against to get your $2,600 average.
Okay.
Got to be
Right.
math mistake.
No, it is.
It's got to be.
And that's what she said.
Yeah, that's what you
I
said.
said, but that's just for water main repairs. I mean, that doesn't include everything in that
Brakes.
line item.
That's
Pardon
for the
me?
brakes. That's
Right,
for the
that's just
brakes.
for the water main breaks.
Yeah, and we were hitting, year to date was at 228.
Right.
So.
So we increased it
need
some.
to take it up.
So the two items on this page that jump out at me are, number one, water costs are proposed to go up by 7%, the cost for us to purchase water, the township. And then secondly, we've added $50,000 to water main breaks.
Correct.
May not happen. That we
Right.
have any breaks,
Right,
but the fiscal year doesn't start till April, so we're talking about next winter, not this winter.
Correct.
Is everybody okay with that?
Okay with that?
Everybody okay with that at this
Okay.
point? Page 42?
Yep. So here's the capital intensive. Lorenda can go over some of the projects that the.
right. Capital outlay, the water supply study, in case we decide to do the study, I plugged in a number. Okay?
Okay, so what's study?
On evaluating the Wyandotte water system on whether or not we're going to join. It's just in case we want to do the study, I plugged in a number for it. That's all I did.
Well, the issue is we haven't signed a new contract with the Great Lakes Water Authority.
Correct.
We have not.
We have not.
Spin off from Detroit. I don't know until we see more on that. I'm talking to you, Ted, and everybody else, but until we see more on what's going to come out of Great Lakes Water Authority, I don't know. We have to have something to compare against, so we don't know what that's going to look like. And I wouldn't want to do any further analysis, spend any more money to do it, looking at Wyandotte system until we know what
Find
the
out
Great
what
Lakes water
we're
deal is.
measuring it against.
That's what I thought.
There was a study done on Wyandotte water many years ago.
Sure, that's
Well, but
not
that's
valid
just
anymore.
it. It's many years ago.
It just never pans out.
But what Wyandotte wanted us to do in the long run was put the water main from the toll bridge all the way up to almost their water treatment plant in the city of Wyandotte, which was,
Well, that's changed.
Yeah.
We talked to them, now I've lost track of years, but 6 years ago, we talked to Wyandotte, and at the intersection of Pennsylvania and Jefferson, they have two lines, and I think one's a 16-inch, one's a 24-inch. Their big issue to us, when I talked to them, was how do we get through Trenton? Trenton's part of it.
how could Trenton be part of it?
Well, the proposal was Riverview, Trenton, and Grosse Ile would all band together to bring the water from Pennsylvania and Jefferson. And we'd probably have to make some expansion improvements at their water treatment facility or their intake. But that didn't go anywhere. That was just an issue. My feeling is we need to look at Great Lakes, learn what it's going to be all about, and then we got something to talk about. So,
I think that's right.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
but
Well, number one, we need to have a conversation with Sohau Engineering Group because there's several avenues here. Because we do have a line that comes in across the Pay Bridge, smaller line.
It's a 12? Is that
16.
right?
16,
Oh, that's a 16 there? Okay.
Bay Bridge.
At the Pay Bridge is 16.
Right.
At the County Bridge is
And
24.
rather than being redundant And of course, we need the engineers to verify, we need to talk to them, but it just seems to me that if we were to put water storage on the island capable to handle all of our peak loads or our daily loads, we could probably service that water tower in the non-peak hours with that 16-inch line. So we wouldn't have to go all the way down to the Free Bridge, connect both of the lines. And all of that would have to, I'm not that engineer, so I'm not the guy to ask, but it just seems to me that that kind of logic makes sense to me, rather than trying to run a line all the way from Pennsylvania to both bridges. I mean, that cost would be out of sight.
Ted, I totally agree with you.
I think the pot, and then the other issue is, if they don't want to start an authority that would include Grosse Ile, I personally think it would be a huge mistake for us to get involved in a system that's 100 years old, if we didn't have some input as to what they're going to do with that system.
Okay, so the action here is Lorinda's budgeted $12,000 if we want to do a study. I'm just saying I'm not ready to do that study right now. But we can still budget the money in case we decide to.
Well, I think it's probably a good idea to have it budgeted if we don't use it on that. Maybe we can revisit a water tower. Maybe we can revisit a number of issues that are going to require some engineering data for us, because certainly we're not the engineers to do that.
Right. So that money, $12,000 in the budget for that. Continue.
Okay, next couple items I'm going to have John speak on. One has to do with a Leica unit. It's a GPS handheld device. I'll let John speak on that.
Latest, greatest technology that's available. It's highly recommended by Rains, and also compatible with everything they use. Our current machine is old and is not.
What is it, John?
Yeah,
Just define.
explain
Mobile positioning system. Well, like today we had a water main break. We bring the GPS with us, get an address, and say, okay, number, locate the numbers for the GPS, put it right on the main break sheet. Next time you ever have to go out there and dig, you know right where the repair's been made. Water shutoffs at houses, all the water mains, all the valves.
Fire hydrants,
Stop
sewers.
signs, fire hydrants.
Yeah.
You want to catch basins.
So how's it picking things up?
Satellite, yeah.
Talking about is it identifying structures below the ground?
It points to where you're standing on the ground, and then you have to put in the attribute of what you're marking.
All right. So in other words, it's not a device that picks up the metal under the ground.
No.
The first time out, you're going to have to find it, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, it could
From
be a
that
street
point-
sign, it could
What?
be manhole, it could be any.
What's the cost on that, John?
Well, I budgeted about $14,000 right now. I used an estimate that I received from another community. Also, I wanted to point out too on that on this unit too, when we saw that demonstration, is that once it's mapped and the information sent over there, it's all printed out. So no more carrying around paper maps that get torn or they're aged and you can no longer read them. They'll be able to see everything right on a tablet, and they'll have everything right there in front of them. That's the cool stuff.
Whatever we have by way of hard paper data right now, that should not be destroyed.
Oh, it won't be
That should be
destroyed.
stored
It's still,
and cataloged so you can go to it also.
yeah,
Because
he
that's
still
been a
has it.
problem over the years, trying to find a blueprint that got removed and read.
I agree.
It wasn't refiled. Eddie Phillips was a master at refiling and keeping all those things orderly. And a lot of things have happened since then. But the important thing is, if you use a new marking system for the fire hydrants for repair, you should still have all the old paper data. Don't toss it out.
Oh, I wouldn't do
There was
that.
a lot of data that was tossed in different departments when they moved from the old building in
From
the
Macomb?
township on Macomb Street up here. And some of that stuff probably should have been kept. So if you come up with a new system, it's simplistic, but it also should have some backup with paperwork. And it takes space.
Okay.
Yes.
We should have enough space.
Good point, John. And so you budgeted $7,000 here. I know you budgeted $7,000 in sewer.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
All right. So that's what that is.
Correct.
Continue.
The upgrade for the data logging capabilities, what that is for all the commercial larger meters, American Water Works Association standard suggests that you test all the larger meters once every 5 years. Our meters have been in place now for 10 years. They have not been tested. So instead of testing them in place, they have what's called a unitized measuring element, which means you pretty much take the top off the meter and put a new one on. It comes factory calibrated 100% with the test card from the factory. You're brand new, you're good to go for at least 5. They're recommended to test them every 5. Along with that capability, now where you're bringing your meters up to state-of-the-art 100% accuracy, which is our cash register, we're also going to incorporate the new data logging capabilities, which means we can tell you when you ran your water in every 5-minute increment throughout the day. A lot of large condominium projects have been complaining about their water consumption, saying meters are incorrect. Well, we did this with one of the ones at Park Lane Villas this past year, and they were so impressed that we were able to diagnose it for them, tell them exactly where the problem was, when it was happening. They asked us to do the other 5 in their facility. So Lauren and I talked about it. We want to go ahead and upgrade all of those large commercial meters to the same technical capability.
Okay, so
Now, does that include all 2-inch compound meters,
Yes, sir.
all the way up to
4-inch.
the 4-inch largest ones we have? That's the schools and everything.
Everything, every one of them.
That's what I've been saying for a few years. They haven't been tested.
okay, the next is a SCADA upgrade.
That's a carryover from year to year that we've done. We've talked about upgrading the SCADA from Detroit. We have not moved forward with the project at all. It's a number that we've plugged in from year to year.
And also for the PRV.
Right, and also for the new PRV, correct, thank you.
Which regarding, I wanted to bring it up later, I'm bringing it up now. That was a great investment. Ever since we put that in place, the pressure recording chart at the north end is a perfect circle every week, 57 pounds. Never has a lot to do with why we have fewer water main breaks. Yes, the winter's been mild, but when the pressure spikes don't go up and down, it makes a really big.
When you say fewer, we've had 41 already this year.
Yeah,
But not the previous.
that's for, yeah.
That's the last winter. That was last winter, right? The
Yeah.
tough winter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good, John. That's good to know. And everybody knows what SCADA is, right? So, all right. So that's it for your capital outlay. And I know you're going to explain
Yep.
the bond issues.
Yep. So I broke out the bond payments and the interest payments. I just did it different this year for my own convenience. Sometimes I do stuff for my convenience, so this was one of them. Anyway, when we go over that, we have the DPW building. If you can kind of switch to, I'll kind of hold these up, page 51
Page 51?
and 54, while you're kind of looking at this, if you can kind of pull them out, or I don't know if you paper clipped them or stapled them.
No, I stapled them.
All right. Well, Ann, why don't you just, what's really important is you've...
What do you want to tell us?
I want to tell you that, as you can see, there's several different issuance. The DPW building matures in 2018. Macomb Street matures in 2018. West River is 2019. East River 225, and then you can see 226. So what this graph kind of does, and I'll kind of just hold it up. This is our payment schedule here on out. A couple of these will be dropping off. So 16 are already in. We'll be budgeted 17. The yellow, which is the building, is coming out of water rates, and so are the blue ones at the bottom coming out of water rates. So in the next couple of years, there's going to be some payments that are falling off, and it makes a big difference when we're going to bond new projects. So in your schedule, we do have that East River Horse Mill Ferry. That was the new one that we added. In my budget, it was originally estimated at, with the first estimates we had when we were going out for the millage, but we just got the new figures in today, so it's going to be about $2.4 million. So I'm going to have to raise those up about $20,000 in the scheme of things. I just didn't get a chance.
So now where are you?
As far as the bond payments.
You're on
So
page 42?
Yes, I'm still on 42. So here's your bond payments, and if you look at 54, you can see how the water, so $100,000 dropped off, and you can see with the DPW building, we're budgeting the 2017, we got one more year, and you can see how some of these payments fall off. So the theory was as some of these payments start to fall off, we can start doing more projects so that we don't make water rates, keep them pretty consistent. And that was the theory behind this. So talking to Bill and whatever, we felt that, the East River, I know, was a priority, and there was bond payments coming off, so that will continue down the road. And I know East River was another thing that you guys are going to talk about, if that would wait a couple years until West River, if we could wait a couple years till some of the other bond issues fall off, it wouldn't have that dramatic increase in water rates. So
let's go back to page 42.
Okay.
Everybody. I think you understand where she thinks she's headed.
Oh, yeah, I want to go back to page 51. I think it's comically tragical. It has nothing to do with the people here, but I do want to make a comment about it at the appropriate time.
We'll get to it. All right, but what I wanted to point out, and like I said, I sat down with it. Page 42, if you look at the bond schedules, the very bottom item under the principal and the interest section, she's included the East River Horse Mill Ferry water main. It's new. See it, John?
I will.
Okay.
I'm right.
Let's go back to page 42 then. You see it, Jim?
I'm with you.
Ted, you see it, Ted? Page 42.
Right. So we incorporated the new estimate.
See this bottom line right here, and this one right
Bond?
here. She
Yeah.
included the bond payments that would be necessary for the East River water main. But it's a little bit shy. This was based on the $2 million.
Right.
If it's 2.4, it's got to go up a little bit.
Right. I think about $20,000 a year. So
And
How much is it?
additional $20,000 a year. So the bond payments that'd be in 140 will be like 160.
Say that again.
It'll be about 160 instead of what I have listed here. So I'm going to add about $20,000.
By the time
I just
Ann
didn't
brings
get a
us to
chance.
the township board, Ted,
Yeah, we'll have an
be in
exact
there.
number.
Well, I certainly don't, personal opinion, I certainly don't think that there's any reason that we would hold off on moving forward with the West River project. At least doing the topos and the engineering on that project, because by the time we finally get started on that project, because there's going to be some major issues there, we will fall within this bond schedule. Now, if your bond payment for 2 years is only going to be $20,000 difference.
Oh, I'm not concerned about East River. I meant the West River one.
I'm talking West River.
Okay. Okay.
If we start delaying that another 2 years, we're going to put ourselves in the same boat as we've been in. We need to address it, at least get the engineering done and the topos done so that we can move forward on that as soon as it's financially feasible. If we wait 2 years before we start that project, it's going to be 5 years before we do it. And I don't want that.
Well, that's on the agenda. There is a report on that, if you see, in the packet, coming up after our budget discussions.
A report to what?
Huh?
A report.
The West River.
West River.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But
I'm just telling her that,
I understand what you're
she
saying.
said delay it 2 years.
Well-
We can't delay that project 2 years.
Okay, I probably influenced her. When I get to that chart again, I'll show you why. I mean, I think what I'm trying to say is the East River water main is contemplated in the budget, can easily be accommodated. But in my view of this, the bond payments don't drop that much over the next couple of years. They drop significantly in the year 2019 or 2020. I know that sounds like a long time off, but it's 3-4 years from now. We'll talk about it when we get to it. But
I was just, you guys decide what you're going to do. I was just basing it on the
yeah,
black and white.
you made a
stuff,
comment.
schedule.
I probably influenced you in my
No,
direction
I'm just
today.
saying by the schedule.
We'll talk about
That's
it.
when it drops off.
The important thing is the current budget can
Right, it
handle
does have the one
East
in
River.
it, yes.
It doesn't have anything in it for engineering on West River or topo. That doesn't mean we can't add it, Ted. When we get to that issue, we could always add it, but up with a figure. But since I was in the business, I'm going to guess to do the topo, and I don't know what it gains us to start to do the engineering this year. We could wait till next year and see, because we probably can't afford to build it without raising rates till years out, but let's talk about it when we get to that issue.
We might have spent like $50,000 on a topo, to be honest. Several years
West
ago.
River?
I think so. I'll get back with you
Not to my
guys, but I
knowledge.
think I'd have
All
bought.
the encroachments on that.
I don't think to my knowledge we ever did, but.
Okay, I will get back with you on that because I don't have that, but I think
All right, so
something was.
everybody's got the
started.
important point. East River's in there. Okay,
Okay.
now we can move.
The chart.
Page 43.
Okay, yeah, back to 43. We're looking at the sewer side. The only thing here is the legal fees against the ACO. That's a guess. We did raise it, but it's a guess on how much we're going to use her for. So we just put that number in there.
So, John, you're an attorney. We have this,
I never give legal opinions up here.
oh no. Ted, again, this is on we raised the proposal is they were proposing to raise the budgeted legal fees from 10 to 50,000 based on the firm that's been hired to deal with state MDEQ.
Yep.
I think it's a great idea. It'll feed right into my comment.
Oh,
Okay with
there
that?
goes again.
Okay. Well, just trying to point out the big differences. Other than that, there's not much difference
Right,
in
no.
this page. Okay. Page 44.
Yeah, 44. Again, we have bond payments. That is a typo. The second 331,000 in last year's budget. It's copied and typoed, so it was a typo problem. And your big issue is going to be in the treatment plant. This transfers over from the treatment plant. The sewer rates pay for the treatment plant.
Well, at the top of the page, there's the $150,000, which is what we budgeted last year, but it's for the repair, cleaning, and televising of the system, sewer system.
Right. We did clean part of the system last year. We also fixed 4 sanitary manholes. I don't think I brought how many feet we did. We plugged it. We're using the same number for this year.
All right. They're using the same number.
Right.
Now, everybody see that? It's the third or fourth item down, third item down at the top of the page, page 44. Now, we've talked about this a number of years, and I don't know what the MDEQ is saying to township trustees, but we've talked about it, and even goes back to Barry's days, when Barry was around. We talked about hiring a firm to come in year after year and do this $150,000 worth of cleaning and TV inspection of all our sewer lines to try to identify leaks in the system, cracks in the system, failures in the system. Now, I know you haven't done any TV inspection. All you've done is some cleaning where you've had a problem. This would be a systematic program in my mind that if we do this properly, you would run, and we would try to reach out to some contractors and see what others have done, try to come up with the best approach. But within 5 or 6 years, we would do the whole system. And you'd map each section. With this technology, I know that you could go back in and come up with an address that we had a sewer break at such and such a home in a precise location. 10 years from now, you could go back and look at that particular break to see if the repair is still holding up. You could just put the video back and you could back up right to that residence. We need to have that kind of backup. That's what my thinking is. I think we need to talk about really doing that program this year. So, Ted, something we talked about over the years, but I don't know where everybody is. What I don't know is what the MDQ is telling us. Ed or Jim?
No, they're not. I haven't heard anything on it. We have been talking about it here for a number of years, and I do think it's a good idea to do.
Ted?
To head things off.
You have any input, Ted? Do you agree with this, or that's what I'm looking for? Do you agree with this?
Yeah, there's some issues, but yeah.
Okay.
20%.
Then you have that under capital, you have the Lycus GPS, the other half of it budgeted.
Yes.
Is that it for this page? Any questions?
Yeah, because the big part will be the wastewater treatment plant.
Page 45.
45 is refuse. Really, the only thing in here is the contract. And 46, we have excess, we're collecting excess revenue on the refuse side. So that might be something we want to talk about when we're looking at rates. It's about $60,000. And we have accumulated a small fund balance in that portion. So we could probably, when we go into rates, I'll do that next, and we can see if maybe an option to reduce our refuge rates to soften up the water rates. But is there any questions in the refuse side?
Page 46 is also refuse.
Yep. There's that difference. We actually have excess.
Page 47, transfers, the wastewater
Treatment
plant.
plant.
Page 48.
48.
Yep. Wastewater treatment plant.
Joe to speak to these issues?
Yeah, I will.
So the big item on 48, nothing hardly changed except for, am I correct? There were little
much
change,
capital outlay.
actually,
Yep. Biggest gap.
except for capital outlay. And Joe, do you want to speak to capital outlay? You have the list, the same list we're looking
Yes.
at? Okay.
Yes. The first two items are rollovers from this current year that we have not done yet. That's the generators at the lift stations. And the mixer blade for the sludge tank. I came here last year and explained how the blade gets rags and stuff like that. What I gave you for a figure, though, was basically the cost of the new mixer blade, not the labor to remove the top, take the thing out, clean the tank. So that price has been adjusted to a more realistic price.
So the $50,000 is the correct price?
Yes.
Okay.
Still ballpark, but we haven't got any solid bids on it.
So that money will be taken a carryover from this year's budget into the next year's budget. That's the proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the same thing with the generators, and that's the same number. There's no change there. Plant HVAC system, we discussed this in December at a meeting at the Charles Raines office. For ventilation of the control building was to improve the ventilation in the primary clarifier room, and would have to be tempered air, and again that would have to be somewhat engineered and stuff. So I plugged in a catch-all of $100,000. But until that gets actually engineered and you get an engineering estimate, that could come either significantly under to, I don't see it being much higher based on our study from 2006. Electrical conduits. That's another rollover. We haven't gotten to it because the deterioration's caused by water leaking in, and I just brought this up at the last meeting in December. But water's getting in to the ceiling of the clarifiers in the wall of the building. Water's coming in where all the conduits are, and then coming through the conduits, and they're deteriorating, and we have to get that repaired first. So that's not going to happen, obviously, in 2015-16. So that's a rollover. The control system for the lime, that's just, it's basically failed all over. We're running it manually. Just PLCs have failed and solenoids have failed. It's just, we need to upgrade it. And that's what that number is. Dehumidifiers for levels down below where it's very moist. In the summer, the walls are just soaking wet. We just need to get some dehumidifiers to help protect the controls that are down there. Surge protectors, this is We have a couple in the MCCs. We discovered one that we took a lightning hit a couple summers ago during the big flooding storm. I didn't discover it till we brought in Dave Lawler to do the power monitor, and he was looking around at our system. Oh, this thing's blown. He discovered it. So it's just replace that one and put some in the other MCCs that are not protected. Arc flash study, that is a standard under NIOSH, the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. You have to actually have marks on the floor in front of your motor control centers. Any of your high voltage stuff, and the plant's all 440. We're working on energized systems.
What is it, like yellow outlined areas?
I think, yes, I think that's what you're seeing. You know, a couple years ago it was stickers on the MCCs, but now they want outside safe work areas. It's pretty complicated. And so we're recommending that that the township have an arc flash study done.
Joe, would that include doing the markings, or is this just, I mean, when you say a study?
They would do.
They look at it and do
it
what needs to be done.
We might have to write, go and paint the markings down.
Right.
But we'd get a thing to tell us what those areas are. The equipment condition assessment, as you guys have known for a while, this asset management program coming down the pike, and the only reason it hasn't hit us is because we haven't had the ACO, and the new permit hasn't been issued yet, partly because of the ACO and the discussion on the new higher limits for the high flow situation. And that's all. There's been a few emails going back and forth between Dale and Brenda and the attorney, and basically everybody's convinced that nothing's going to happen with EQ on our permit right away. But this equipment condition assessment kind of falls into place, and it will tell us exactly what the condition of all our critical equipment is in that facility. And that facility's been running for 35 years without too many major, I mean, there's been a few things we've upgraded, but the things we haven't would be, it would be beneficial to us, and it's also part of that asset management program to have a baseline saying this equipment's going to, last for 2 years, it'll last for 5 years, but it would also be done by actual maintenance mechanic type people, electromechanic.
They're guessing, but it's an educated guess.
Much more educated than mine. And right now,
the asset management or the asset study program is going to be a requirement of the ACO.
It will be part of the ACO, the permit, the MPDS permit.
Permit, okay.
I would just take exception to the statement you made about we haven't done much. In the past 10 years, we've spent about $1 million over there. We must have done something.
Oh, I didn't, Ted. There's a lot of equipment that we haven't touched yet, and that's what I was getting. And I did qualify my statement with, we've done some stuff there, but we haven't done it all.
10 years ago, all those augers were replaced at big boo years ago. Crushers or something. We got involved in some litigation for that products liability thing a long time ago.
Well, we've done a lot of improvements over there.
Yeah, we've done a lot of improvements.
Okay, move on.
Okay.
Primary clarifier.
Primary clarifier, these weirs are, when we take the tanks down every year for their annual inspection, what I'm noticing is a lot of spalling of the outside. It's the underwater part of the weirs that you don't see, but it's inside the tank, and we get it down. The spalling of this and pieces of it are falling off, and at some point they're going to fail, and then you're not going to have, the tanks aren't going to work as they should. You'll have short-circuiting coming into the...
well, they have to be replaced, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're 35, they were replaced 35 years ago.
All right.
All right.
And then the
Intermediate lift
last
pump.
thing, intermediate lift pump refurbishment. Those are the two Archimedes screw pumps that lifted up. They were put in 1980 when the RBCs went in. The secondary treatment part of the plant was built. And they have been operating every day for 35 years. This would be either, there's two ways we could either refurbish what we've got, or a longer, what a lot of people are doing, they're getting rid of these Archimedes screw pumps and going with level controlled variable frequency drive pumps that go up and down with speed, a lot less costly for electrical use. Whereas the Archimedes screw pumps just run the 50 horsepower motor, just runs all the time regardless of the flow.
All right, so these are things you feel you need.
Yes.
Now, for budget purposes, last year we budgeted $200,000, and we see what we didn't spend, but as Ted says, in the past we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. I mean, not every year. In the last 10 years we've spent, like you said, probably $1 million. But the plant is, how old, 40 years old?
The original part is 1966.
Right.
And the last major upgrade was the
All right.
Been in the 70s.
1979. It went in service in 1980.
So the bottom line for our consideration, what's proposed, all these capital improvements, including the ones that are carryovers, total $548,000. So when I saw that, I immediately asked Dan, what is the fund balance, the retained earnings, in the wastewater fund that's been accumulated at this point? It's $3.3 million. It's $3.3 million, a little over that. So I wanted you to have that figure. Personally, I'm in favor of moving on all these things. And I guess, Joe...
The money's there. It's already been in the till.
Yes.
All right, well, it seems to me, if you don't get these things done, I don't understand. It could be just that you don't have enough staff time to do all these things.
Could be operational, too, where you can't take this thing out.
Well, that could be part of it.
Some of
But if these are actual needs, I would hope if we identify them as needs, and if whatever we approve in the budget, I would hope you'd get done, one or the other.
Work at it. You know, this is not stuff that my staff at the plant can do. This is bigger. Some of it will take engineering. We need help from Rains.
Well, there's no figure in here for engineering then.
No.
Or probably your firm, Suez, may have to call some people in that are experts
They might
in
be able
some
to
of
do
these
that too. We have
things.
some engineers.
So should there be an item here
Realistically, Bill, you can put 15% on that.
and everything? Well, if we put 15% on it, we're talking $75,000.
Well, the dehumidifiers, we don't need engineering. The arc flash study is a study. There's not going to be engineering. So not all this would need engineering.
So should we put $30,000 in for engineering assistance?
Sure.
I mean, whether it's engineering or whatever assistance you need.
Sure.
I mean,
That would
should we
probably
have,
be a safe
if we
number.
want to do these things, we have a figure in there to help him get them done?
That's
'Cause
fine. It's going to be budgeted against that gross kitty. It's not budgeted
Right.
against the rate, so that money's
Right.
already
That's right.
been collected.
It's not against the rates. It's not going to affect rates.
Let's put it.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Oh, yeah,
There's no way that we're going to do all of this in a fiscal year.
Right.
So you can budget it, and I don't have a problem with that, moving it forward. I think there'll be more than enough money within that budget number
Right.
to do any engineering on the phases that we have to do.
Right.
But I'll guarantee you will not get this done in a year. We've been fighting this for the last 10. It just can't be done.
Well, that's a good point, Ted.
So there's enough money with that number there, if that's what you want, that's where you want to go, there's enough money there that those items will have to be engineered. There'll be plenty of budgeted money there to do that.
All right, you're right. It's a good point.
But I think we need Joe and his team to put together a realistic schedule. You can't come in here at the end of a budget year and say, I need $500,000 next year. You can't do that. I mean, that just throws everything into a tither because you know realistically you can't get it all done in 1 year. I mean, we've got engineering, we've got discussion items. In fact, we don't even know what we're going to do on the HVAC portion of it. There's a number of things that I guarantee you will not get handled in the next 12 months. So you need to come to us with, I don't have a problem with this. And if you really think you can get all these done in a year, God bless you, but I don't believe you can.
But part of it is
Try as I might, I
prioritization.
haven't.
You know, that's
They are
really
by priority.
has to be. But I mean, you really have to prioritize something and then follow up on it. So it can't be, well,
Right.
okay, there's a glitch now. Whatever is the most important thing, you figure it out. 1, 2, 3, and then just go with that one. We'll never get a touchdown unless you do that.
That's right. You're chasing the goal and it's there. So I think, Bill, I don't have a problem. I'll fight for this at the budget level. I think we do need some realistic time frames. And you need to do that. We can't.
Maybe you could come by our April meeting with a timeline on some of the stuff.
Okay.
So do a little capital planning yourself and
Yeah.
bring something back to us.
And call a meeting with Raines, see what we need talk about with the engineering phases of this so we can have that discussion going forward. So he can give us some realistic timeframes too.
And Joe, we appreciate your skills and experience. So I mean, that's part of what we have to rely on you.
Right.
And I rely on you more than Drains Company to make those decisions on operations at your plant. You know it. It's like your youngest child or something. You've been there a long time.
I have.
Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody, the four of us, the commission members and Ted, the quorum here, that everybody understands what's proposed in the budget.
Tonight.
And I agree with you, Ted, since you made that comment. I mean, even if we got all this going, it wouldn't all be completed in this fiscal year, so we probably have enough money in there right now. So, okay? Everybody agree with moving forward? Les?
Yes.
Page 49.
Let's wrap up. Can we wrap up the DPW? So let's go
Yes.
back to page 35. Front page.
Okay, page 35.
35.
Sorry.
Okay, or we'll start with 36 and back up to 35. So 36 would be presented as a balanced budget with almost $6 million at the bottom. In the current budget that's being presented, there is a deficit in the water side, just so we understand, of currently $201,000. Everyone got that?
Yep.
And budget being presented for the sewer side is a deficit of $361,121. Everyone got that? And our refuse balances, because we had extras, so we left that at balance. So let's go back to 35 now. So if we look at, this is the summary of what I did. So if you look at after we go down the usage rate, you see that water revenue. So I just kind of summarized it, that our current water rate is 9.60 per 1,000 gallons with our usage. If we did that, we were at what was being presented at a negative 251. To make balance and to break even, if we were just going to rely on water rates, we'd have to raise it to 8%, 10.37. It gives us a 203 to the positive. So that's the water side, and then we'll discuss further. So that's the water. Everyone understand that? We'd have to raise it. Okay. If we go to the sewer side, the justification was we were at negative 361. We know we have a fund balance. Some of the capital projects, the 50,000, the 120,000, were going to be in retained earnings, and that maintenance line item of that 150,000, whether we use or not, we haven't used. So I'm projecting at this time to leave sewer rates as is. So we'll go back up to the top. So our options are, and then we looked at the refuse side. We do have a positive, so we're collecting more on the refuse side. So options when it comes to, we don't have to decide on rates, we don't have to decide on anything. All we're doing is doing a balanced budget right now. Your options are leave rates as is, grab everything from retained earnings. The options are raise your water rates a little bit. As shown here, if you go to the top where it says if our current water rate was 9.6, it would go to 10.37. Sewer would stay the same, so the actual water increase on your bill would be 5.8% if we decide to raise water rates. your third option is that we need to look at the refuse rates, because we're collecting excess there, and our intention is not to collect excess. Our intention is to pay for refuse pickup. So we can also look at those rates and maybe adjust those rates to lessen the water rate increase. So those are options that you guys need to look at. At this time, all we're doing is adopting a budget, and we could go into retained earnings if worse came in the worst, if that's what you decided to do. So at this point, all we're looking is for the board to have a balanced budget.
We're approving the budget,
Right.
and you're going to come back to us with rates in April or May.
Right, 'cause, yeah, and how we can.
I, for one, would like you to
We
look
pass it
at
on.
what kind of reduction to offset some of the rate increase.
Right.
To look at by reducing the refuse charge. Everybody else agree?
Sure.
We have an accumulated fund balance there of a couple $100,000.
In the refuse, 255,000, yeah.
Remember, years ago it was 600,000.
Right, right, and now it started up again, so we still.
Use that, and
Yeah.
so we should have a balanced budget in refuse. I think what's happening with the industry, I know for a fact that several cities this year are rebidding with waste management.
Right.
Had some substantial reductions. In fact, they lost a couple contracts. One was in Livonia.
Right.
There's a lot of discussion
And-
about it. And Livonia's, now
Right.
they're saving about $300,000 a year.
And again, if you're talking about going into doing East River and West River, that may become an option to amend the budget and redo rates in totality, and that's something you guys
I wouldn't
gotta
anticipate
discuss.
the refuse is going to do that. All right, so everybody's in favor of looking at the refuse side, see if we can
Yes.
ameliorate,
Oh, sure.
reduce the impact.
And
of it.
that's always an objective,
Okay.
to try and keep the pain of paying bills as
Right.
palatable as possible for the people in the community, because of the city of Detroit.
Correct.
And they dictate a lot of what our water bill is.
Our practice, and when I go to these seminars and stuff, they say, make sure you raise water rates, whether it be 1 or 2%, don't ever leave them stable, because once you leave them stable, people expect that. So it's always going to be a battle that you fight, but to do water rates some
I wouldn't
point where
agree
it's
with that
extinct.
concept, because we kept it flat once or twice that I'm familiar with years ago. So I don't think people really,
Then we got
once
behind
the
the eight
rates
ball.
established, no, we're balanced perfectly. Once the rates gets established, I don't really think a person worries about that year if the rate's been flat. So the always raise, I don't agree with that. The always prudent, I agree with that more so. So if once again, if one of these tenants that's in some marbled stone at some seminar says, always raise the water rates, what they're trying to do is sell you a marketing concept that may or may not apply in a local community. That's what's happening. And so if that happens to be the buzzword, maybe it's not always the right buzzword for us, because we're a little different from other places. And we can't grow.
Right, I
And
just
we
don't want to
can't
fall
grow.
below the 8 ball and then all our water mains have to go at one time. That's what we're trying to spread it out.
No, we know that.
Yeah.
Okay, page 49. Brenda,
All
page
right, yeah,
49.
these are more yours than.
Are all the rain
Okay.
projects?
Yeah, we'll just go over these. Under the drainage maintenance, the airport oil separator, we've always plugged in that number of 20,000. Same thing with the Grosse Hill drain maintenance, it's just a carryover from year to year. Road ditches enclosures, we talked about it in the past when we talked about redoing Church Road and closing up some ditches. We've always just plugged in a number here. Bike path drainage for us to school, that $70,000 is still outstanding. It's still owed to Wayne County, and Ann likes to show it, so the board is aware of it. Stout road drainage is self-explanatory, as you heard earlier tonight. The next three are taken off that list where you show highlighted on our
Local road initiative?
Yes, thank you. And plugged in those numbers from the engineer's estimate for those next three. And then we have reserved for future improvements. Last year, we issued 23 drainage permits for private residential problems. We've always plugged in a number of $100,000. We never come close to that. Okay, just to let you know. And then permits and fees and that it remains the same. It's unchanged.
What do we usually spend, say, a 3 or 5 year average drainage grant program? What do we usually
We have the
spend?
budget. Where is it? Where's that
Actual.
sheet?
Hang on, I got to find it.
Got it.
I got it in here somewhere.
Got it or not?
90. Here we go. Got
Page 62.
62,000?
No, 62,
No,
page
page
62, you can
62.
see
Look
all the
at-
history.
You can see all the history in her.
So what's an annual, if you annualized 5 years, then what is it? How much?
100-ish.
100-ish, yeah.
So,
That's the number we supposed to plug in.
so it seems to be, we're actually paying out that 100 every year?
Oh, no, on the,
No.
on
The
the,
actual cost.
Oh,
On the
actual
grant?
the refunding it,
Actual-
yeah.
the actual
That would be
payout.
200, 94.
I just started breaking it out,
yeah.
that's what's different. We didn't separate it till we started separating it this year so we could see.
Yeah, she never broke it down that far.
I'd have to look, yeah.
So what, like,
So
say,
like on an average,
have any number that we've
23
actually paid
Oh gosh,
out
let me think,
against the-
maybe half of that we've paid out, possibly. I'm just
that's
trying to think
strictly from the
back.
hip, right?
I'm just
Yeah.
shooting from the hip on that one, yes.
High amount?
100's
Hundred's
high.
a high.
100's
No,
high,
the
yeah.
50.
It depends on the projects. I have to go back and look
Yeah,
through
I'd
all
have
of
to
them,
look.
you know, because some
35,
were 10,000, you know,
Yeah, we
some were
don't, I
less,
don't
some
have
were
that.
500, you know, people just had different ones, so I'm just shooting from the hip on that one.
Okay.
So probably a good idea to reduce that if you could to an actual average just for budget.
Yeah, we could.
Add another
We could.
10,000 or something, but I mean,
Sure,
that's
we
way
can.
more accurate than the way we're doing it right now.
Sure, we can do that. No problem.
Yeah, I have that back
You-
there.
okay,
I
good.
do have it broken out.
Understand that grant right. Are we loaning those people the money, lended it to them?
No, it's
Give it to
a
'em?
reimbursement program, Les. So they pay out of pocket first, and then they have to submit. And then what I do is that there's so much that they have to submit as far as they have to sign an agreement that we actually have it registered with Wayne County, so that when the home goes to sell, the next person moving in knows it's there and it has to be maintained. So they have to get their 2 estimates, and we have the engineer review both estimates.
Somebody spends $5,000 on drainage. They go to the township, do all the paperwork, and they say, pay me. How much do we pay? Half?
$2,500.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Next page.
page 50.
Page 50, road improvement. These expenditures, maintenance, dust control, we plugged in a number of 38,000. It's a good number to use. Snow plowing and winter maintenance, it's a little high, plugged in 48, because last year, hardly anything.
Just not known.
It's just not known, yes. So, under reserve for capital improvements, the only thing I've put in here is for the local roads initiative, the 20% match that's required. And then every year we put in about $30,000 in joint and crack sealing. And those are the 2 numbers I plugged in. Grounds and maintenance, we plug in the number for 2,500.
I've asked,
25,000?
Sorry, 25,000. I got hundreds and thousands.
I've asked
Thank you.
Ann if she would clean this sheet up because
Yeah,
where it shows supplemental repair chip seal, that needs to be
yeah, that's
completely
coming off.
deleted.
Yeah,
And under the reserve for capital improvement, the road maintenance, 4 miles of chip seal, that should be deleted.
yep.
The West
And
River Road
West
should
River
be
Road.
deleted. I mean, those are, well, I know why the chip seal stuff's in there, but I don't know
Yeah.
why West River was in there.
Yeah, we'll clean it up.
This is our 0.4 of a mil
Right.
annual maintenance money. So you're going to clean that page up, okay?
Yep.
That, and I would say that from our meeting earlier today, that if we do all this, at the end of the year next year, we would end up with about $73,000. Okay, so that means, I guess, if we decided wanted to do another 25,000 place, we could do it. But it's good to have some money in reserve in case we have some repairs, like I'm seeing around right now, where you're getting concrete sections just blowing up and with the temperature changes. Okay. So we can go back to page 51. Ted, that's this big chart? All right, so when I looked at the chart, and West River Road's going to come up in a minute, the cost estimate, all I'm talking about is if you look at this chart, I don't think there's a lot of change in 2017, 2018 in debt, but it starts to really drop in 2019 and 2020. And all I was thinking on West River water main, and we're going to see that cost system in a minute. If you were to proceed with it 2 years from now, in 2018, and do your engineering and all that, get that ready, and actually build it in 2019, by the time you sell bonds, and you know this, you can backload a little bit the principal on it. So the first couple of years, you're making just an interest payment. Wouldn't require a big effect on our rates, I wouldn't think. And then this drops so much, we could pick up the principal. So it could be, I would call it backloaded a little bit. That's all I was saying. When I look at this, I don't see a drop to 2019 and then a bigger drop in 2020.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate your thoughts on the matter. But
okay.
The reality is that we have a obligation, a fiduciary duty to this community with infrastructure. That section of water main has been deficient now for ever,
okay,
or such a point. We place an option in front of the taxpayers to make a decision as to have the ability to pay for this on their tax rolls, and they chose not to do that. That option was there. If we have to adjust a couple of times on our water rates to complete this loop around this township, I think it's imperative for this to at least make the recommendation. It's our job to make the recommendation to the board to get this main water main problem, which is primarily East River, West River. There's a lot of sundry items that have to be done, but that's the critical part because that gives us the loop. I just feel we need to move forward with that, and if it's going to cost the taxpayer, it's going to cost them in taxes, it's going to cost them on water rates. Everybody understands that. I mean, we can't just ignore the fact that we've got a small section of pipe that's, we'll call it deficient by size, if nothing else,
okay,
on West River. And I just, my thought was we need to address that, and the sooner we keep pushing it off, then something else pops up, and we don't get it 2 years from now.
And I agree with Ted. I mean, it's something that we've been talking about. It's something that we, another one of the problems, but one of the bigger problems, I think, that we just have to attack and get going. I don't think it's something that really we should wait on. And if we do have to up the rates or whatever, even if it's only for a little bit of time, we need to do that because what it means in terms of safety to our residents and everything is really important.
Okay. That's my only thoughts on it, Bill.
Yep.
It's not a hot button issue, but I think that we have pushed both of these projects off for very good reasons. If you take a look at this chart, and I think John wanted to talk about it a little bit. If you look at this chart, it's pretty obvious why we put it off.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question as to why we did that, because everyone has just so much money. Every income is fixed to a certain degree anyway. So, but with that being said, these two items are the most critical in our service for this island, and I think we need to proceed with those.
I hear you. Okay.
If we look at that chart for a minute, the thought occurred to me to look at it from a different direction. And what that is, and we all know about the Flint water fiasco lately.
John, talk into your microphone.
We all know about the Flint water difficulty lately, and we know that there were some dropping of the ball, for want of a better term, like gross negligence, by people in the MDEQ in Michigan. Now, those people came to us, 2000, 2002. They wanted a big study. They wanted us to spend, I think we spent $500,000 on the study. A little more, $525,000. And Raines decided at the last minute they couldn't do it, and so we had some other people come in there and do that. If you look at this, Spalding D. Decker, if you look at this chart, the red line is the SSES cost and the judgment that ensued from some litigation in that regard with the contractors, and that was maybe another $5 or $7 million or so. So about 1/6 of this chart for bond payments is everything but MDEQ's mandates and the litigation that ensued from that. So 5/6 of this chart, and I did that rough, but I bet my math is pretty good. 5/6 of this chart is because the MDEQ mandated these costs be presented to us without our choice. At the MDEQ, they've got a demonstrated inability with some people that have been in those units to prudently manage things like Flint water. In that regard, it seems to me that the MDEQ may be the poster child for the Peter Principle in Michigan this year. We all know what that means. Now, we've just increased our budget for legal from $10,000 to $50,000. Thank goodness we are doing that with the MDEQ, because what happens, these bureaucratic organizations, not all of them, there's a lot of good-meaning people up there, but all you need is a couple of fumblers at the top. And as we know, the plumber said that effluviant flows downhill, and what happens is you create major problems. So when the MDEQ first approved our plan for 100-year rainfall, and they turn around and say, well, maybe the concrete bathtub wasn't big enough. There probably is no perfect fix for anything, but this kind of stuff really shows me that once in a while you have to walk away from the table and address this in a learned, skilled, professional manner with good detail. And I don't think this community has always done that, nor has every community in the state of Michigan always done it. But one of the problems is if you have mismanagement at the top end, then the Peter Principle applies, and who suffers? It's the little guy, whether he's drinking lead-contaminated water or whether there's another problem like an overabundance of capacity in a particular endeavor. So I'm looking at a chart that shows me that until 2023, 5/6 of our bond expenditures are based on mandates from the MDEQ. That's what it is. And there's no perfect answer to this stuff. That's the thing. We can all pretend up here that we get the slide rule guy from MIT and he's going to put his slide rule together. They don't use those anymore now, computers. But same idea. That's what a slide rule used to do. And now the computer does it. They punch in some numbers. If the inferences are incorrectly selected, then the ultimate result is wrong. And we need to verify, quantify, and check things over and over again, because if we don't, we place this township at a loss. We're not being completely responsible for their well-being when you have people at the state level obviously operating with gross negligence in that particular department I'm talking about. That's enough. I don't want to get myself any more wound up than I already am.
I think you've said enough, John.
Well, it's a good analogy. It's something that the public really needs to understand.
But think of that. 5/6 of our bond payments are for the concrete bathtub over at the sewer treatment plant. That's a lot of money.
It's a good point, John. All right, are you done?
Almost. You have to move to adjourn.
Any other comments about this? All right, thank you.
I think I've already...
Thanks for those comments. All right, so we'll We will, all right, so the recommendation was, based on this budget review, based on what you heard tonight, the motion would be to recommend approval of the rough draft of the operating budgets, and I would add to that, and capital budgets, pending minor variations as determined by the Board of Trustees. So we're going to transmit budget recommendations to the Board of Trustees. That would be the motion for the operating and capital as we've outlined them tonight. Any further discussion? Can I obtain a motion?
So moved.
I'll let somebody else do it.
I'll second it. Are you going to second it, Les?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, Les will second it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we've transmitted budgets for consideration. All right, let me stay organized here. All right, next item. Lorinda put this on the agenda that each year the commissions or committees are asked to recommend the Township Board a member to serve as chairperson for the coming fiscal
I
year.
recommend Bill Kotzik to be the chairman of this commission
I will,
for the upcoming fiscal year.
Support.
I will second that.
All right, we got 2 seconds.
2 seconds. That's how important you are.
All right, well,
All right.
I appreciate that. Thank you. The only comment I was going to make is you only have a quorum here today. There are 3 members missing. I mean, do you want to delay this?
No.
No, we can't.
You really think you're going to get a no vote?
Yeah, Bill, yeah.
No.
After you've given them excuses for an adjournment?
Is there any further
of their
discussion?
presence?
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All in
No.
favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
So we got
Aye.
a double second here, Budney and Schmidtke, right?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? So thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Bill.
We got to vote on the vice chairman.
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
I don't
Actually,
think that's.
we only have to do
All we
chairman.
need is the chair.
We still have a vice chairman in place, John.
Yeah, we do. We have
Still a vice
John.
chairman.
Where am I at?
Next on the agenda is a manager's report on delinquent water accounts. Lorinda, I'm going to...
Okay, last December's meeting, we had a discussion on the number of accounts that we send to taxes each year. So I sent out a questionnaire to the DCC and asked them to forward it to various directors downriver. I had 7 communities respond, and you can see on the attachment how they responded. We have approximately 3,900 active accounts. We send out delinquent notices twice before we compile the list to be sent to the winter taxes. We send on the average about 109, 110 a year. I went back 3 years and I looked, as requested, to see if we have the same people showing up from year to year. And the answer is yes, we do. There's a little over 60 people that show up every year on the delinquents that are sent to taxes. Our practice has been not to shut off the water. In past, I know some communities do, some don't because of staffing levels. It's worked really well for us by sending out these notices twice a year and encouraging people to come in. And a lot of them do come in and they end up paying. And then again, we compile the list, we send it to taxes, add on 15%, and we generally collect it the following year. So it has worked in the past. I would like to continue to do that.
If we do on an average 109 and 61 of them are repeat, I'd like us to take a look at least, I mean, that's better than 50%. They've made this a way of not paying their water bill until sometime down the road.
But they pay more then, right?
Well, they pay a 15%, but that's what
They do.
That's
They pay a
their,
penalty.
they're saying, hey, I'm willing to pay the 15%
We
and not
get that
pay during the.
15%. Yes, we do.
Back
We
to
get that
writing it
money.
off. They pay their tax bill, they write it
Sure,
off at the
sure.
tax time.
I mean, and I don't know why we would want to let that great a percentage get away with it. I don't. The other 40, the regular people
Regular
who
people
just
that pay their bills.
have problems and everything. I understand that, and
Yeah, on
that's
occasion,
fine for
yeah.
them. But on repeat, I think we should really look at doing something different with them so they are no longer repeat offenders.
I just want to make one comment. Jim,
Pardon me? Yes?
it costs the township nothing. We send it to taxes. Within 60 days, we get the money from Wayne County. And I think to establish a policy to shut off water, we're going to have a line here of about 60 people.
And those 60 people, quite frankly, deserve possibly, I mean, you know, that's why, I mean, you're not just saying shut off the water. You got to look at what you're going to do. You got to see, you know, if they're repeat, hard to believe their problem is ever going to go away.
What is the problem? I don't understand the problem.
Problem is we have 61 people who aren't, or, you know, based on this, 61 accounts who aren't paying their water bills on time, like you and I have to.
But they are paying them.
Well, yes, they are.
Yes.
I mean, we get the township gets paid.
Yeah.
And we.
No, I understand that. I understand that. All I'm saying is, I just said, I think we should look at it because basically, it is the delinquencies are repeat offenders. You know, that's the better portion of it. I mean, how do you tell people? How do you tell the rest of the people you pay yours on time? But for these 60, it's okay that they and if you want to pay an extra, what would you say, 15%?
They pay 15%.
Everybody just pay at the end. Would that work for us? I mean, if that 61 became 601.
But that's a different question. Yeah. Jim, I almost agree with everything you say most of the time, and this I don't. If you look at the percentage, the people that are repeaters, it's less than maybe 2.5% or 2% of the overall.
Oh, no, I'm talking of the 109. Of the 109.
Well, and I'm thinking that if we have 3,900 accounts, 390 would be 10%, and so if I cut that by 4, I'm down at 2.5%. That's close.
Okay.
2.5 to 2.75%. That's what it is. So I don't. It's de minimis. If it's less than 10%, I think it's de minimis at this point. And I usually do agree with you, but on this, I think Ted points out it's something that you need to carefully think about. We get 100% recovery on our dollar for dollar. If the house gets sold, we get it.
We're going to get our money
now. I remember these lists, I haven't read them in a month, but there may, for instance, hypothetically, be a restaurant that's on there. And for whatever reason, that restaurant doesn't pay their water bill like everybody else does, but then they pay their extra 15% down the road. That guy might have a business reason why he does that other than taxes. I really don't know. But when you start lowering the guillotine on a small number, 2.5%, I don't think the benefit is worth the burden that we might ensue for doing something like that. That's all. I just don't think it is.
And all I was saying was we should look at it. That's all. I didn't say do it. You know, I didn't say do it. I said maybe we should look at it.
The only other issue I would have is if we, and I don't disagree, that I pay my water bill every 3 months like most people do. But you tack on one litigation on top of shutting off water, where there's damage caused and accomplished absolutely nothing. Anything that we would have gained from a taxpayer standpoint would be lost in one lawsuit. Just a thought.
And it's all hypothetical. I mean, it's all.
So I think for what we gain on it, and there are constant violators, and some of them aren't even violators because they remove it from they consider it property tax, which is against the law, by the way. Mm-hmm. They're not supposed to do that.
Right.
But do it anyway because they probably don't get caught, and probably never will get caught because it's so much of a minutia. But I think if you want to look at setting a policy for that and bring it in front of the board, I guess we can argue it out there for sure.
I had to step out for a minute, but the current late charge is 15%?
Well, that's a little different. The late charge, if you miss your payment, what's that percentage about?
It's 5%, isn't it? Isn't it 5%, I think, we put on...
It's 5% cumulative.
Cumulative, yeah.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
It's cumulative
5%.
quarter to quarter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 15% at the end. If they waited a whole year, it'd be 15% for us, and then it'd be 15% for Wayne County. So it's
No,
a
having
30%
been,
increase
So
on
it's a
your water
30% increase in the
bill.
in the base, yeah,
There-
which is that's pretty significant
It's crazy.
extraction of additional money. You get 15% of that back, and the county gets the 15% back. So
Well-
there's a little bit of money that's being made, so we're losing the revenue on the front end, but we're actually picking up
Picking up at
some.
the
I don't
end,
know what the
yeah.
difference would be, but
I don't either. I haven't run that.
couldn't figure that out.
You know, I like what Jim is saying about this. We need to look at this. I think we should send a letter to these people, say, look it, do you realize that you are being charged 30% more on your water bill by not paying it and letting it go to taxes? Explain that to them.
30% more.
15 on our end and 15 on Wayne County's end.
Yeah.
Wayne County taxes on. They
So
got their
now, if you're in
percentage.
how does that work now? If you're in the 30% tax bracket, what do you save?
They put 15%.
I don't know.
Wait a minute. Why would Wayne County put 15% on the water bill?
I don't know.
It's
why
like
they
a
do
collection
it.
fee.
They do it. I don't know why they do
Who the
it.
heck?
Well,
That's
let
why
me
I don't
let me
understand.
tell you a little story here. When I became the interim manager a few years ago, I wanted to get a new sewer truck. So I came before the commission and I said, hey, I'd like to get a new sewer truck. The sewer truck I wanted to get was one that would fit in the old garage that we had in the fire department. So the commissioners looked at me and they said, okay, Les, you find the money and you can get your sewer truck. That's the sewer truck we have. So I go, okay. I went out, me and my crew, and we went out and started shutting water off, telling these people, hey, you haven't paid your water bill all year. We're going to turn your water off. Well, it worked all fine. And I ended up getting enough money to buy that sewer truck through the arrears. But then politics got involved in it. Because somebody was on the township board that was related to somebody's water I was shutting off. And it came before the township board. Oh, my God, you can't do that. But I already got the money for the sewer truck, so that's why the policy still stands today as shutting and not shutting the water off and putting it on taxes. And that's been 20 years ago.
I think more.
How long?
More.
Probably longer. Longer.
You'd like it to be 20
Yeah.
years ago.
Well, you know,
Unless you got underwear that old.
in my career, I've had some experience with shutting water off, and it's very unpleasant. It starts to multiply as to whose time it takes up. John first, then Lorinda. Then it would be Ted or Jim
Donna.
or the supervisor and the manager, maybe the attorney. So whatever you gain there, and then everybody's crying. You can't shut the water off. Then you go back and turn it on. I mean, I got a baby at home. I got senior parents at home that require this water. Whatever. It's really
I just brought
no, I'm not done. I agree
okay.
with
That's right.
it's a disconcerting thing for the people that are actually doing it. You know that is.
Yep.
But I agree that I feel aggrieved by this, that people don't pay their water bills timely. And what I would like to see, give some thought to, is an additional penalty. If a bill is unpaid for 90 days, maybe at 60 days they get a nasty letter. 90 days, we either double our penalty, instead of 15%, we make it 30%. Give them something to think about. You know, I'd throw that on the table. 60 days, they get a letter. At 90 days, double the penalty. And on the outstanding amount, that's 90 days in arrears. I mean, something like that. But that would get people's attention a little more, wouldn't you think?
Oh, yeah, that, and also, well, you just send this letter, it says, look it, you're complaining about the high water rates, but it's going to go to taxes, it's going to be 15% there, plus another 15%. So you would save 3% on your water bill if you just paid it.
I don't think you need to send that nice a letter. You could simply say a letter that said, you're in arrears, it's not fair to the other payers of the system. If it isn't paid within the 90-day period or within the next 30 days, you will be, the fine will double to 30%.
Yeah,
Like that.
well, I kind of agree with what you're saying too, Bill. You know, but we should send these people a letter.
Well, all that requires staff
Twice
time,
a
and all we
year.
got
I
is...
mean, that's how it,
we don't have a lot
they're
of
90
staff
days
people, but-
delinquent, and they
but-
get their first letter, then they get their second letter, then they go to taxes,
No, you send them one letter and say...
you know?
60-day threshold, and maybe it has to be done once with a stamp, or maybe we just, at a certain date when we adjust the rates, we send a letter out at one time to everybody that's in arrears, and say to them, this is going to be our new policy effective July 1, 2016. Forewarned.
Gosh, I just brought this up so Bill could walk out for a while.
Thank you.
For our audience.
Yeah. I'm surprised Joe's still here.
All right, what do you want to do?
Go to the next
Next
item.
one.
Go to the next item. Just go to the next item.
We done discussing this?
Done.
Well,
No action?
No action.
yeah,
It's just-
yeah, we can informally, if
Oh, I
we want to
see.
look at it, we can do it and
If
bring
we wanna
it, talk
informally,
to
we
you
can,
about
we
it
can
and
talk-
everything,
yeah,
that'd be
if-
fine.
What'd you say?
Your recommendations on the bottom of your...
Yeah, my recommendation, I wanted
Yeah.
to keep it
All right,
status quo, the way we've been doing it, 'cause it's working,
Oh,
okay?
nobody, yep, no one said it wasn't.
All right.
okay, so two quick items to discuss.
Wakey, wakey.
The next item is page 70 in your packet. It's cost estimate for West River Road. I looked at this closely. Ductile pipe has gone up in 2015 from 2014, 20%. In this cost estimate, if you look at it, it's a $3 million project, $3,134,000, plus contingency at 10%, plus all the, again, contract administration, selling the bonds, staking, inspection, design, would add $595,000 to it. Now, so we're talking about a $4 million project. The contingency is important. We don't know what we're going to run into there in that old road. Looking at the cost estimates, if you look at item number 15 and 16, that's $900,000 worth of lane resurfacing. So this would be built under the road, under the east lane. Be a tremendous improvement there. But through this section would eliminate a lot of the terrible drainage problems that. This would be a good project. So there you have it in a nutshell. What you'd like to proceed with it. So what would be the next step?
Just my 2 cents would be, upon completion of the East River project, move into the topos and the engineering of the West River project. I don't know. We certainly won't get them both done this year. We won't even get into the West River project this year. It's probably going to be towards the end of the year before we finish East River. That would put a start date probably 2018 on the West River Road project for a start date.
All right. So
But we could get the engineering done, the topos done, all the legwork done, and at any time during this project.
2017.
Do it 2017, as soon as the East River project is done.
Well, then, being the chair, we'll have other discussion that we need to, based on what Ted's suggesting, I'm not opposed to. You already made a comment on it. John already made a comment on it. Would this be fair, then, to send a note to Ohio that we're contemplating engineering, doing the topo and engineering in 2017 budget, or budget?
I can also...
That we would actually build it in 2017-18.
I'll get with bond council and have them run some schedules and see what we can do if we bond them both
that
at the
sound?
same time.
That sound okay to everybody?
Yeah, as long as we're moving on it, Bill,
Yep.
I'm a happy guy.
Okay.
Well, don't forget, there's another problem with this water main on West River Road, and that is between West Shore Golf and Country Club and Island Drive. That old crappy sewer that's in there, that's falling apart. We need to put the leads from all those houses into the sewer on the west side of the road.
Okay, I want you to explain that to me again.
The sewer that they are in, the houses from Lakewood to West Shore, All of those houses, except I think one or two of them, are in this old combination sewer that was converted over to a sanitary sewer. And it's a vitreous crock sewer that we've had water main breaks along there. The water main break has never surfaced. It's come up in the sewer. There's the things is leaching, and it's just the ground is holding it apart. But all these homes have sewer taps on that interceptor sewer. So when they go do the water main and do that, they need to take the houses out of that old sewer and put them into the interceptor.
Is there an interceptor there?
Oh, yeah. Well, this sewer flows this way, Bill. Comes from the north and comes from the south, and it comes down to the lowest point. And this has got weirs in it, and it ends up going into the interceptor sewer. The rest of it goes back over to Jewel Colony, and it's got all the catch basins and drains that comes down through there and goes out to the river.
So when you dig this up for the water main, you're going to run into that.
Well, the sewer's just going to collapse.
I think Ohio will have to be brought up to speed on that when we're doing.
Well, I know I brought this up before, and when this came up,
You need to be involved with this Ohio when he does engineering work on that, so
Right.
he's aware of it.
right, somebody should make Ohio aware of that.
John,
So
He's
that we
already
need to
aware of
talk.
already aware of it.
And so as far as additional expense, really that should come out of the sanitary sewer maintenance. It shouldn't be part of the water.
That's right.
Right.
And it looks like they're putting the water main underneath the road.
Yeah?
As many years as I worked in the water, that's a no-no. You don't want to put the water main underneath the road.
No, but
There's no right of way.
Well, in places, there's no right-of-way. But the majority of it, there is a right-of-way.
all right, so I guess we should have a meeting on this.
Obviously that has to be looked at, but yeah.
All right, so I'm going to make a note, keep this, and we're going to
Yeah,
have a
there's
meeting.
there's some major easement issues, about 21 locations.
All right, so we're going to, if we have a meeting, we're going to include you, Les, on that.
Yes.
Okay?
Hey, Bill, I just had a couple items on that line item number 22, $200,000. The East River job was approximately the same size, which is 9,500 feet. Was $65,000 was the contract awarded bid. And then line item number 28, the sprinkler repairs is 75. The highest bid for East River is 25. So just something to contemplate. I know it's an estimate.
But I assumed this, on East River, for the most part, you're not going to be in the road itself, for the most part.
No, they changed that. They are. They're going to actually make it one lane for the entire project.
They're going to go under the road?
They're going to just because when you fuse 1,000 feet of pipe, you have to lay it somewhere, and you can't lay it on the riverside.
That's an issue we'll have to discuss with them as well. Okay. All right, those are all good points. So, bottom line is, the minute would reflect, Les just said, one issue, but that the plan is to do the topo and the engineering and budget for it in next year's budget, with the idea we'd build it in 2018. And the finance director is going to talk to bond council about putting some schedules together. We will not lose sight of West River Road water main. Okay? Next item, I'm going to try to summarize quickly. Page 71 through 89, there's a lot of stuff. I asked Lorinda to put this in your packet. This is a packet in Wayne County and every county, urban county in the state, Oakland County, Macomb County, there's something called the Federal Aid Committee. This involves Meridian Road. So the subject, Meridian Road, Grosse Ile Township. So this gives you an idea of what public works directors, city managers, mayors receive from the county. Twice a year they have a Federal Aid Committee meeting. And if you can thumb through this packet on your own, this is the kind of information they're dealing with. But included in here is the needs list. You've heard us talk about the county needs list, where they have about 150 to 200 projects. and they prioritize them based on what's called a PASER rating. You know what a PASER rating is? It's a methodology to determine whether you have good roads, medium roads, bad roads, or failing roads, and so forth. And trained engineers go through this PASER training, and they come out and evaluate roads. Bottom line for us is, we had Meridian Road on this needs list. And you heard me talk about it 2013, 2014, 2015. We were in the 70 range for their projects. Now, if you go to page 82, you see the needs list. On page 82, it starts the needs list. And I want you to all look at this. That's the right one right there. And the ones in yellow are the ones they're actually going to build, right?
Yes.
Right. So here's the needs list. And then you flip to the next page of the needs list, which is page 83. And you'll see that project number 75 is West River Road. Now, the county knows that West River Road, it says federal aid challenges. It knows that based on traffic volumes and the existing right-of-way, that it's never going to be funded. But based on its condition, it's made the rating. And what's happened is there's 150 projects on here. Meridian has disappeared. Meridian is not on it anymore. This is a 2017 needs list. So I asked Loretta to communicate with Ron Agasinski, the county highway engineer, and page 71 is his response. And if I began to read it to you, it wouldn't make any sense to you as it doesn't to me. It's a song and dance about they broke up the evaluation, the PASER evaluation, in different smaller segments, and because of the 16 smaller segments of the roadway and the low traffic count, it didn't meet the necessary criteria to be on the need list. But then it has to ask the question, well, how can West River be on it? I mean, Meridian carries several times more traffic. So he says he's going to reevaluate that and get back with us. What my idea on this is, and I'm not going to let this go, what I'd like to do this summer is invite the county highway engineer. We pick a date, say our June meeting or July meeting, and invite him to come in. And maybe we even invite the township board of trustees, those who want to come, and invite him to come to our meeting and explain the PASER study. The reason would be is we want to learn about PASER ratings. So come and explain it to us. And then at the same time say to them, well, maybe 30 days before you come and make a presentation, why don't we drive the island roads? Let's drive East River. Let's drive West River. Let's drive Meridian. Because I look at the 150 projects here, and a couple of these, and I just don't remember at the moment, that I looked at. There was a couple I picked out in here where it could have been in Livonia, could have been in Wyandotte, where the road's not even half as bad as Meridian.
Well, look at the places, too. For instance, like 6 Mile and Haggerty Road, there's a mall out there. What do you think the traffic is out there compared to East and West River Road? I mean, come on. So that formula's out of whack. We'll never hit it.
But, John, the PASER ratings, those are all factors, but the big issue is the condition of the pavement. That's what PASER is. It's not traffic.
Well, it's great. At some point, we could have holes in Meridian Road that sink to China where there's water down there. We still wouldn't hit the traffic count.
All right. My only point is I think Meridian was dropped off the list intentionally.
Wrongfully.
And I think that we need to get in here and get it back on the list. Meridian can be funded. We have the right-of-way. If we ever could reach a point where there's more money coming in, it's fundable.
Very important road on the island. Free Bridge is closed. You got to get off. That's where you have to
anyway,
go.
This really makes me angry with Wayne County that this happened. I don't think it was accidental. How do you lose a project off the list? I think that somebody purposely
Sure.
did it.
Let's take that off of there.
God darn it, we're not taking it anymore.
Yeah, I know how you feel, Bill.
I know we're on television, but we're not being treated fairly by Wayne County.
I know how you feel, Bill. I'm talking about a street that the name has been changed and it's wrong. Also, I got a question to ask about the Ferry Road Bridge. Has that been brought up to the county?
Yes, it's been fixed. The hole?
Well, I saw some pictures that John took from underneath the Ferry Road Bridge.
I was there.
Scary.
I was there, and with the re-rod hanging down and so forth, yes. That hasn't been fixed. But what has been fixed is there was a hole beginning to develop, and 5 or 6 years ago, Barry and I went out there when you could actually see through that hole, and it was the size of a softball. You could see the water in the pavement, coming from the east, where it abuts the concrete section of the bridge. That was caving in again, and we started 6 to 8 months ago to let the county know, and they said, that's not a big deal. That was their first reply. I'm using my words. So as it got to be more of a big deal, they did come out and repair it. So, problem. The bridges are a problem.
Well,
Let's just let you know, Wayne County did request those videos that I took, and they are reevaluating. They're hoping to move it up on their priority list.
one of my classmates called me up and informed me of the bridge that goes from Grosse Ile, the mainland, to Meso Island. I guess that bridge is getting to be in pretty bad shape.
Hickory Island?
No, Meso Island. Not Hickory. Hickory Island's a private bridge.
Oh, it's in
Just
bad
past
shape.
Albemarle.
That's where you go around the brand past Hoover's. That bridge that goes from Grosse Ile mainland to Meso Island. I guess they've been underneath it in their kayaks and stuff, and they said it is in pretty bad shape underneath.
Yes, you are. You've driven.
Yeah,
You-
you've driven
yeah.
across it.
It's past Albemarle, past Smith's, there's an open space until you get to the houses on either side.
Oh,
There's a
Roger
car.
Smith's
Yeah,
house.
there-
that bridge there, okay.
Yeah, you don't think of it
You don't
much
even
as a
notice
bridge,
it as
but
a
it's
bridge.
there.
There's a
Yeah.
causeway there. That you
Yeah.
go up.
Yeah, okay. That's called Meso Island. I didn't know that.
They also call it Upper Hickory.
Okay. What, you can only ask them to evaluate that bridge. Okay. All right. I've talked enough. I have no chairman's report. We'll go around the table.
I have no commissioner's report.
Riley?
I have no commissioner's report, but I would like to say a couple of things. One of them is, the most important thing, someone told me today, I was informed that I believe Frank Kent's widow may have passed away. Frank was on our commission for a long time. And I understand that did occur most recently. Now, Phil Kennedy probably would know, but he's not here tonight, I'm sure, for good reason. And we should probably very concerned for the family at this point. I think mention that Frank was a great guy and sat here for a long time, didn't say much, and when he did, it was really important. Now, that said, there's
They don't have any children.
I'm not sure what the extended family is, but I know that some people may be grieving right now. Now, that said, if I turn back to item number 3, just looking at this and having earlier talked about detailing data, we've got an incorporation by reference for a letter to remain with the existing prices that have occurred a couple years ago, and it specifically addresses the cement contractor. Now, if you look at the paperwork we have in front of us, and somebody said, well, what are you paying per cubic foot or yard or whatever it is? There's no detail or data in here at all. So you refer to a letter that isn't here, and that's probably precipitated initially by the cement men, and then it's precipitated with what we see in our materials. I have no problem with maintaining the rates. I think that's great. It's very prudent and everything else. But from a management standpoint, from a reasonable man standpoint, we shouldn't incorporate by reference numbers that we don't even know what they are. It's just not really good
I think
business.
Lorinda does.
Yeah.
Well, no, my point is going to be very specific. If it's not in the paperwork, then we have to look for it someplace else. And I've sat up here a bunch of times where,
To your mic.
well, I think they can hear me. And I've sat up here a bunch of times where, yeah, we'll have to look at that, and we'll see it next month, and then next month comes. We don't really need to follow up on stuff that should be right in front of us, because then you know what the rate is. Now, nobody might ask what that rate is, but we should know, because it's like if I was a 7-year-old kid and I said to him, okay, read this over and
your point's
tell
made.
me what it is.
Your point's made.
It's just not good.
So, Lorinda, you know what the rate is. I heard the discussion this morning.
It was $70 a square.
But I will say,
Just put it in the
that
paperwork.
John's point is it's not in the paperwork.
Okay.
But the other thing I want to tell you is I do know for a fact that the cost estimate that we have for the $500,000 program, that all the cement work was based on the exact GNV rates.
Okay, well, and that's
Quantities.
great. It's great. It's
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it really should be in the paperwork.
I agree with you 100%.
That's it.
I agree with that.
Nothing else.
All right, Les. Anything?
The only thing that I would like to say is that I would like to see a sewer truck put into this year's budget, but I take it it's not going to happen. That's all for me.
I do have a question. When you say a sewer truck, you're talking about a panel truck or what? A step
No.
van?
Talking about a hydraulic sewer cleaner.
With a jet?
Not a Vector, a jet truck.
Yeah, a jet truck. Not a Vector.
Not a Vector. And that truck also has a capability of TVing sewers at the same time. John and I both have looked at this truck. I brought it to this commission quite a few years ago, about a used one. But I think it's time we start looking at getting ourselves a new sewer truck. These guys got to clean 20% of the sewers a year, even when you have an emergency, to be able to get your truck and get out and take care of those people right away, like we've done in the past, instead of waiting for a contractor to come 30, 40, 50 miles. It's a very cheap insurance policy.
So we have a jet truck now, right?
We do, and it's getting older, and it's a small truck. Like I told you, I expect that truck to fit into the garage at the fire department when we get that garage.
Wow.
You never saw that garage, did you, Bill?
No.
It's a wonder they could operate out of that place.
Well, we got into the garage after the fire department moved out. We got into that garage. We had all our trucks in the garage for the first time. Then the recreation department decided they wanted it, so they kicked us out of there. And here the sewer truck stored in the fire department until we ended up building our own building.
Let me do an Ed McMahon on you. Then what happened before you got into the old fire department area? Where were the trucks parked in the wintertime?
Outside.
Did the equipment freeze in the winter?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Les, you're raising a legitimate point. We talked earlier about the need to put a program together to actually TV and clean the sewers on a scheduled basis so we can keep the records, so we know what we're dealing with. This could be part of that discussion.
Right.
Now, I'm not in favor of TVing this program with staff. It's got to be, we have to have people that professionally do this, and there are many firms that do this, go to communities and inspect their sewers. If it's an option we have that we could take a quick look without much expense to find out where a
Well,
plug
I know what
is.
you're saying, Bill. I know this is okay. You're cleaning the sewer, and you're something's wrong. Okay, you got the capabilities on this truck
See it.
of sending a line down there and seeing what the problem is. I mean, some of the sewers that they've had has had boulders in them.
And I know that this technology's drastically improved over the last 30 years.
Well, when John and I went to the open house, Jack Duhaney's, and we saw that truck, and they showed us what the truck can do, I'm just going, wow.
Yeah. All right, that's a good suggestion. We'll incorporate that thought into planning how we're going to spend the $150,000. Ted?
John, our new pit is in and done on the Pay Bridge.
Yes.
Have we noticed any difference in our pressure flows now that we've got a couple of new?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, we have a pressure recording chart at the pump house on the east side of the bridge. It records the pressure each week. We change that chart. Ever since we've installed it, it's been a perfect circle, never exceeding 57 pounds per square inch is where it's set at currently.
Now, do you have some old discs that we can,
Oh, yes.
that you can give to Lorenda so we can stop by and see
sir.
what kind of difference it did make? It was a big project.
Yes.
I would hope that we'll see it in main break reductions.
I believe we already have.
And that used to be a problem in the summertime, too, Jim.
Oh, yes. Because they pump it up.
And
Sometimes they exceed
we're pretty
80.
confident that the PRVs and the at the Free Bridge are operating pretty smoothly?
Yes.
We don't have any problem?
Yep.
All right.
They were adjusted when Les was still here. I'm going to guess around 07, 08. We had somebody out and looked at that one.
Do we have a skate on that? Do we have a disc on that or no?
Yes, we have chart recorder on that one.
You're monitoring that one also?
Yes. And it's also monitored through the SCADA system.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Okay, John, do you have anything else to bring up?
No, sir. Thank you.
Ann? Nope. Thank you for being here. Lorinda? Joe? Okay.
I would like to make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Support.
Move supported that we adjourn the meeting at 9:20. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
That's a good discussion.
Thank you.